Chapter 8. What the hell? Take off your clothes. The man repeated, not bothering to hide the lust in his voice. Why? I asked, even though I had an idea of what he wanted. I'm sure you can guess why. The man muttered, and I could hear rustling in the background. Hell no. I'm not doing this. Fuck off, you pervert. I yelled into my phone before hanging up. My hand went up to my chest as I tried to calm my heart that was pounding like crazy. The phone started to ring, but I ignored it. Knowing it was that creep. What was I going to do now? I didn't want to play along with the sick game this man clearly wanted to play, but if I didn't, would he tell the police? 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐧𝐬 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐻𝐿. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. The Alpha. My hands covered my face as I thought about our options. Our very limited and scary options. Could I do it? Give the man what he wants, or would that just be the start of it all? What if I did what he wanted and it wasn't enough? Would I be able to do everything he asked? How far would he go? The way I looked at it, we were screwed. If I listened to him, there was no guarantee if he would keep his words. Listen, you stupid twat. I'm not going to do what you want, so fuck off. I bellowed down the phone after it rang for what felt like the millionth time. I'm going to tell Ev. I ended the call before he could finish the sentence, and with trembling hands I blocked his number. I sat down on one of the bar stools and put my head against the counter. The cool counter was soothing and felt nice against my hot cheeks. With my eyes closed, I thought about what we had to do next. Noah, wake up. A soft voice muttered in my ear as they gently shook me. Wake up. Tilting my head up, I saw Cami staring at me with a concerned look. I let out a soft groan and stretched my arms. I was going to make some coffee. Must have fallen asleep. I lied as I stood up. Are you sure? I nodded as I rubbed my eyes. Can you make me a coffee? I need to take a shower. Sure. Do you want me to make you breakfast? I shook my head as I grabbed my phone from the counter. I looked down at my phone and found that there would be any from the unknown man since I blocked his number. After a long, hot shower, I finally got out and wrapped a towel around my body. My muscles were still stiff and the shower did nothing to relax me. Wiping the condensation off the mirror, I stared at my reflection. My tired face stared back at me and I closed my eyes. We couldn't stay here. We couldn't risk it. We had to leave, and the sooner the better. Right now, no one knows what happened. There's no one looking for us, so it was the best time to run. If we waited and people found out what happened, our faces would be everywhere and we would have nowhere to hide. We had to do this now. I thought about how I'd tell Cami about this predicament we were in. About the man who contacted me last night and seemed to know what happened. I didn't want to worry her, but I had no choice. We need to talk. I told Cami as I walked into the living room. Cami looked and frowned. What's up? She put her bowl of cereal down and handed me my cup of coffee. I took a sip to calm my nerves before I started talking. Someone called me last night. They know what happened. The color drained out of Cami's face as she stared at me in horror. It's the same person that sent the note. I continued. We need to leave. We can't stay here anymore. Oh my God. Cami gasped out. We need to go to the bank and cash out all the money we have in our savings and leave. We can go down south to London maybe. And if it comes to it and we have no choice, we'll leave the country. Is this actually happening? Oh God, this is actually happening. Cami, calm down. Calm down. No, someone knows what I did. So yes, someone does. I don't know how, but they do. But they haven't done anything with that information. That means they want something, and that gives us time to get out of here. I tried to explain to Cami while she freaked out. So we're just going to leave the country. No, we're going to leave the city. The other Alpha is here searching for his cousin and someone knows what happened. We need to stay low for a bit, and if we have to, then yes. We'll leave the country. Where will we go? I don't know. Maybe somewhere outside of Europe. If this person tells the Alpha, there's no actual proof we did anything, I doubt he's going to search every country looking for us. I told her even though I didn't believe a word I said. The Alpha would look everywhere for us, but leaving gives us a fighting chance. Okay, so when do we leave? As soon as we can. We'll go to the back today and cash out as much as we can. We'll pack and set everything else out. Just finish your breakfast and I'll write down what we need to do. You need to stop panicking, okay? Cami nodded and grabbed her bowl of cereal but stared blankly ahead. I knew she was having a hard time dealing with this, but I didn't know what to do to make it better for her. I left her to her food as I went upstairs so I could grab a notebook and pen. It might be a better idea to write this down on my phone instead so I would never lose it, but for some reason I preferred writing things, typing it. I took my phone off charge and turned the switch off, frowning when I saw a notification. The sound of something thumping loudly filled my ear and I unlocked my phone to see who sent me a message. Inhaling sharply, I squinted at the message from an unknown number. You shouldn't have blocked me. That pissed me off. You don't want me pissed off. The message was sent almost half an hour ago. Do one. Stop texting me. The reply was instant. I'll tell everyone what you did. I wasn't going to continue to engage with this creep, so I blocked this number again. With one hand holding my phone, I went over to my desk to grab my notebook and pen. My gaze fell on the pictures that was on my desk. My mouth curved into a small sad smile as I stared at the 4 people smiling back at me. We were so happy then, with no problems or issues. Just a normal family. Look at us now. Swallowing the lump in my throat, I looked away from the picture and headed out of my room. Cami was exactly where I left her and looked as tired and devastated as I felt. Cami, you need to eat your food, I told her as I sat down and picked up my lukewarm coffee. I don't feel hungry anymore, she mumbled, looking down. Flipping the page over to a clean page, I started to write down what we needed to do. Cami piped in with some ideas but mainly sat there looking miserable. She felt as though she wasn't helping enough with our situation and wanted to do more. To be honest, I didn't want her to do anything at all. There was a good chance she would mess it up and I wanted to make sure everything went smoothly. A slight buzz had me looking at my phone. Was it that creep again? How was he getting so many new numbers and so quickly? I decided to ignore it and concentrate on what I was doing instead. The phone started to ring, causing Cami to jump up. I quickly grabbed my phone and rejected the call. That scared me. Who was it? Just a girl from my course. I'll call her back later. I lied as I clicked on the number to block it. Before I could block the number, another message came through which led to me almost dropping my phone. My eyes widened as I looked at the new message. Shit. Chapter 9, what's wrong? Cami's voice pulled me out of my shock. Oh, nothing. I just forgot about an assignment that's due. I must have sounded convincing because Cami didn't question me further. Putting my phone on silent, I tried to ignore the message I just received. Can I use your phone for a sec? I want to see how much we can cash out in the bank without having to speak to the bank people. When Cami sent me a puzzled look, I continued. My phone is being weird. It'll be more quicker on yours. Cami handed her phone over and I quickly Googled how much money I could get out from my bank account. I could get out 10,0 without needing to talk to someone, but I had to use the cash machine inside the bank, which was fine. To get money out of my savings was another issue. I would have to transfer my savings money into my current account and then get it out. We can get out 10 in one go, so we'll have to go to the bank twice. I'm thinking we cash out 7,0 now and another 7,0 on Monday because the bank is closed on Sundays. We can only use the money in your current account. We won't be able to access the money Mum and Dad left you until you're 18. It's okay though. We have enough to live on until we figure something out. Maybe we can call Uncle Tom and ask if can get the money out, Cami suggested. I shook my head. No, he asked too many questions and we can't justify why we would need that money right now. I can't believe we're doing this, Cami mumbled as she took her phone back. Me neither. Right, so I'm going to go to the bank and cash out. You stay here and start packing your clothes. I think we have a couple of suitcases in Mum and Dad's room. We can take only one suitcase each, so only pack what you need. As I drove to the bank, my mind wandered over to the message I received. It was a grainy, dark picture of 2 people in what looked like a field. The picture was dark and it was unclear who those two people were, but I'm assuming the creep who was sending me those messages was trying to say it was us. If that's the only evidence he had, then we would be fine. A blurry and unclear picture of two people in the dark didn't prove anything. To be on the safe side, we still needed to get away from here. I didn't reply to the creep but decided not to block him. He'll end up texting me with a new number anyway, and I wanted to know if he had anything else. That didn't mean I would play along with his sick game. The bank was quiet on this Saturday morning despite the amount of people shopping in the town centre. It felt strange carrying all that money in my purse. I felt paranoid that someone knew what I had in my bag and they would try to take it off me. As I walked past, I saw a familiar face exiting a phone repair shop. "Hey Jackson." Jackson turned around. "Hey Nola. You alright?" "Yeah. Just here to do some shopping." I told him. "Sorry about the other day. Something came up. Thanks for all the help though." "Yeah, sure," Jackson replied, sounding distracted. "I have to go. I'll see you later." "Yeah. Sure," I said, but Jackson had already left. My eyes wandered to the shop he had left and the man behind the counter gave me a friendly smile. I walked into the shop and headed to the counter. "Hi, love. Do you need any help?" I muttered as I eyed all the phones in the shop. "Do you know how I can't track a number?" "Track a number?" the middle-aged man asked, raising a dark eyebrow. "Someone keeps texting me. I block the number and the person texts me again with a new number. Do you know if there's a way I could find out who it is?" They gave me a sympathetic look but shook his head. "Sorry, love. Your best option would be to get a new number." That was actually a good idea. If the creepy man told someone what happened and we had to hide, we would need new numbers so no one could track us down. "How much are these phones?" I pointed at the Samsung phones. "These are new, so they're $495 each. We have second-hand phones on the other side." I browsed the second-hand section before finding two phones that I liked. "Can I have two SIM cards as well?" "Sure," the man said as he packed up the phones I selected. "What network?" 𝐸. After I got everything I needed, I decided to head over to Sainsbury's to get some Galaxy for Cami before heading back home. As I sat in my car in the car park, I thought about what our life had become. I never in a million years pictured my life this way, and my heart clenched tightly as I thought about what Cami went through. Maybe we didn't have to leave. There was another option. I had to do it for Cami. Making my mind up, I sent a message to Uncle Tom asking him if it would be okay for Cami to stay over for a couple of weeks. I could persuade Cami to stay with Uncle Tom for a bit while I tried to figure out who the creep was. Maybe I could get him to stay quiet. I winced and swallowed the bile in my throat as I thought about what I would have to do in order to make sure he stayed quiet. Once I got home, I called out for Cami. "Cami, I'm home." "Upstairs," she yelled back. I headed upstairs to find her folding some clothes on the bed. I threw her the chocolate and she sent me a grateful smile. "We need to talk." "What is it?" she asked hesitantly as she unwrapped her chocolate bar. "I texted Uncle Tom about staying over there for a while and he said that's fine." I told her as I stroked Misty, who was sleeping on the bed. "Okay. It'll be nice to see everyone. When are we leaving?" Uncle Tom had replied back and said we were welcome to come any time and that both him and Aunt Jess will get Cami's old room ready for her. I grabbed the clothes from Cami's hand. "I'm not coming with you." "What? You said we were both leaving. You literally said like an hour ago." "I know, and I'll join you there later. For now I need to find out who's been sending us those messages." "No," Cami said as she stood up. "I'm not going without you." "Cami, please. Let me just figure out who is doing this and then I'll come too. Maybe I can convince the person not to tell anyone and then we wouldn't have to leave at all. This is just temporary." "No, I'm not going anywhere without you. If you're staying, so am I." I closed my eyes and took in a deep breath. "Cami, listen now. Nola, I get to decide too. It's not just your choice." She snapped at me before storming out the room. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nelban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." I groaned as I leaned back onto the bed. The sound of my phone vibrating had me groaning out again in frustration. Why can't this tosser just leave me alone? Did you like the picture? Answer me or I'll send it to the police. With gritted teeth, I replied back to the creep. Who are you and what do you want? The reply was instant. I want you. I rolled my eyes and replied back. I was no longer scared of this creep. I was just pissed off. Let's meet up. Somewhere public. After what felt like ages, he replied back. You looked pretty today. The message had a picture attached to it. The picture was of me at the phone shop talking to the man at the counter. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up as I realized that this creep was following me and was only a few meters away from me. How did I not notice? The phone started to ring but I didn't pick up. Too disgusted as thought of how close this man was to me. Did I walk past him? Did he follow me all day? Has he followed me in the past? The phone rang again but I rejected the call. Who could it be? It had to be someone I know or else how would they have got my number? Or maybe it's friend of a friend, but who would give my number out without asking me? I knew this would take a lot of time and effort, but I didn't care as long as I found out who it was. I could text everyone on my contacts list and ask them if they've given my number out to anyone recently. Let's play a game. I muttered as I blocked the number and started to draft my message that I would send to everyone. I'm going to find out who this person is. Chapter 10. I didn't get any more messages that day from that creep, but I still had no idea who it was. I texted everyone on my contact list and those who got back to me told me they hadn't given my number to anyone. So I was still stuck on the theory that it's someone I know or it's a friend of a friend. I could narrow it down by gender as it was clearly a man, but then what if a female friend gave it to someone? I didn't want to eliminate anyone unless I knew for sure it wasn't them. There were some people I eliminated, such as my cousins and people who had left the country or moved away. My theory was that it was someone from uni, but that hardly narrowed anything down. There were thousands of people who attended the same uni that I did. I couldn't think of anyone who would do that to me. Cami spent the whole day ignoring me. She packed her clothes and did what to do but refused to talk to me. I knew she was angry at me, but couldn't she understand why I was doing this? I was trying to help her. Everything I do is for her. I wasn't too sure if she wanted me to sleep in her room tonight, but when I went in to check up on her after dinner, she gave me a pleading look before turning away. I got into bed next to her and she turned to face me. I'm scared. Don't be. You're going to be fine. I reassured her as I stroked her hair. I don't want to go anywhere without you. I need you, she whispered with her eyes closed. It's just for a couple of weeks max. It was silent for a while and I thought Cami had fallen asleep until she spoke again. When you're around, I don't feel as scared. A lone tear slid down her cheek. Every time I close my eyes, I see him, but then I remember you're here and you'll keep me safe. Every time I'm alone, I think about what happened, but then I know you're only a shout or a call away. Knowing you're always here is how I'm coping. I don't think I could live without you. My throat tightened as I heard those words and I moved forward so my forehead was touching hers. Cami kept her eyes closed as tears ran freely down her cheeks and my own eyes glazed over. You are so strong, Cami. So strong. I will always protect you. I know. That's what I'm worried about. The room remained silent as I stroked Cami's hair. Her soft cries and shudders slowly turned into snores. Once I knew she was asleep. Sorrow overcame me and I was the one crying. I put my hand over my mouth to stop any sound from coming out. Please, don't let me lose her too. The rest of the weekend was uneventful. We spent most of it packing and tidying the house up. The atmosphere was somber, as if we knew once we left here we would never return. It was hard to accept the situation. We had grown up in this house, and there were so many memories that we would cherish forever, especially the ones that included our parents. We had to mentally prepare ourselves for what may happen. There was a good chance we could never come back here, so when we left, that was it. We had some time before we did that, so I wanted to plan and make sure we had everything we needed. We couldn't take everything with us. Just some clothes and important documents like our birth certificates and passports. Maybe we could put the rest of our stuff somewhere safe and come back for it one day. The plan wasn't to go on the run. Not yet anyway. We just had to leave here and stay low for a bit and see how things turn out. The creep that kept texting me might not tell anyone about what happened. After all, isn't he committing a crime too? Knowing what we did and not telling the police. Surely that was a crime too. Maybe I could spin in that way. If he threatened us again, I could threaten him and tell everyone he was complicit in the cover-up, or else how would he know what happened? Yes, that could actually work. Whether that worked or not, it was still a good idea to get away from here. Even if it was just for a little while. Speaking of the creep, he hadn't texted or called me all day. I wonder if he was someone and I knew, and the mouse message I sent everyone scared him off. At the end of the day, I didn't care who he was as long as he kept his mouth shut. What are you watching? I asked Cami as I joined her on the sofa. 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐧𝐑, she told me, turning the volume up. 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐧𝐑, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing 𝐃𝐥𝐻𝐧 enthusiasm. I hadn't watched 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐧𝐑 since I started uni and had no idea what was going on. What's going on? 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐧𝐑, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing 𝐃𝐥𝐻𝐧 enthusiasm. Cami groaned, pausing the screen. It's too long to explain. Just Google it. My phone is on charge. Cami glared at me for a few seconds before unlocking her phone and tossing it at me. Before I could say another word, she motioned for me to shut up before pressing play on the remote control. I wasn't that interested in the show, so decided to play Beehive Bedlam instead. I was so excited when I found out the game was available on the Play Store. It brought back so much memories from my childhood. It was a game that was available on the old Skybox and Cami, and I would always play it and try to beat each other's score. Usually we played it when it was raining, as the Skybox was always dodgy when it rained and my parents would join in too. Listening to that music felt nostalgic and took me back to those days. Those days when everything was perfect and we were happy. I was tempted to turn the sound up and piss Cami off, but decided against it. I was only playing for 10 minutes when the phone started to vibrate. Cami, sure. Someone called Daniel is calling you. It's my boss. Well, ex-boss. Just ignore it. Cami said once she peeled her eyes from the telly for 2 seconds. I did what she asked and rejected the call, but he continued to call again. After rejecting his call 3 times, he finally got the hint. I suddenly felt uneasy and no longer wanted to continue playing. What did her boss want? It must be important for him to call that many times. I think you should call him back. It might be important. I'll call him back later. He probably just wants me to come back to work. Cami shrugged, keeping her eyes on the telly and not seeming that bothered. I was going to leave it to when a message came through. Cami, call me back ASAP. It's important. I grabbed the control and turned the telly off, ignoring the shouts of protest from Cami. You need to call him back, I told her, handing her phone back to her. Cami groaned but did what I said when she realized I wasn't messing around. Her ex-boss Daniel answered within the first couple of rings, as if he'd been waiting for her call. I motioned for her to put it on speakerphone and she did. Hey Cami, sorry to call you on a Sunday evening, but this is important. Hi Daniel. What's up? Cami asked, not picking up on Daniel's nervous tone. I know you don't work for us anymore, but you need to come in the store. Daniel started to say as I frowned. They need to talk to you again. Who needs to talk to me? I handed everything in when I left, and you can send my P45 through the post. It was silent for a second before Daniel continued. It's not us who needs to speak to you, Cami. It's the Alpha. Chapter 11. Cami dropped the phone as soon as she heard those words. Her wide eyes met mine as she started to hyperventilate. Cami, are you there? I ended the call and tossed the phone on the sofa before turning to Cami, who was gasping for air. Cami, breathe. Come on, breathe with me. I told her calmly despite how scared and anxious I was feeling. Oh my God. Oh my God. Cami started to mutter frantically. Cami, look at me. Come on. Deep breaths. Taking a deep breath. Cami started to listen to what I was saying. That's it. Just breathe. After a few minutes, Cami was a bit more calm, but she was still shaking. I put my arms around her and whispered soothing words into her ears. After a couple more minutes, I pulled away and grabbed her phone, holding it out to her. You need to call him back. Tell him the call disconnected and ask him what the Alpha wants. I can't, Cami whispered, shaking her head. You can. Call him back. I'll tell you what to say. I reassured her as I pressed the phone harder into her hands. Cami swallowed audibly before unlocking her phone and calling Daniel. I gave her a small smile to encourage her and she nodded. Hi Daniel. Sorry the call got disconnected. Who did you say wanted to talk to me? That's okay. I was just about to call you back. It's not 𝐿𝐴 who wants to talk to you, it's 𝐿𝐴. He said he had some questions. What about? Cami asked quietly. What day can you come in? Can you come in tomorrow? Daniel ignored her question and asked his own. No, I have college and after college I have a group project. Cami lied while he nodded. Look, Cami, you need to come and speak to him. If you don't come to him, he's going to come to you. I mouthed the word Tuesday to her and Cami nodded. I seriously can't do tomorrow, but I can come in on Tuesday. After college. Cami offered. That's fine. I'll let the alpha know. By Cami. He ended the call before she could respond and Cami turned towards me. What do you think he wants? Do you think he knows? I wasn't sure if I should lie to Cami or not, but then decided not to. I don't think he knows. If he knew, we wouldn't be here, but I think he knows you lied. Okay. So what should I say? I stared at Cami as if she had grown another before shaking my head. Cami, you're not going there. Didn't you hear what I said? I think he knows you lied. I don't understand. We're leaving. I just told you to say Tuesday to buy us some time. I told her as I stood up. Are we leaving now? No. I shook my head as I tried to keep myself from panicking. I needed to stay calm. Tomorrow morning. I can't drive at nighttime. I can't believe this actually happening. Come on. We can't waste any time. We need to be ready to leave tomorrow morning. Neither of us could sleep that night, no matter how hard we tried. Have you ever felt like that, where your body and mind is completely awake and refuses to shut down? Instead, your mind plays out every worst possible scenario that could ever happen, over and over again as if it was a video on loop. My body was filled with dread as I thought of what could happen to us. Why did the alpha want to speak to Cami again? Did he find something on those security tapes? If he knew what we did, we would be dead now, so it wasn't that. I racked my brain trying to think of what he may have found that required him to speak to Cami again, but I came up empty. As soon as it hit 6 I got out of bed. With no sleep, my body felt heavy, but there wasn't much I could do about it other than having lots of coffee. With that in mind, I headed over to the kitchen to put the kettle on. It was still dark outside as I sipped my coffee slowly and my mind wandered to what we had to do today. I would go to the bank when it opened around 9 am and cash out the rest of the money before topping up our new phones. It would be a good idea to buy multiple SIMs just in case we needed them. Hey. Cami's soft voice pulled me out of my thoughts. Go back to sleep. We won't be leaving for a few hours. I can't sleep. Cami pulled out a mug from the cupboard and started making herself a drink. I keep thinking about that alpha. I let out a sigh as she sat down next to me, but didn't say anything. I wasn't sure what to say, if I was being honest. I wanted to be reassuring and encouraging, but it was hard to do that when all I felt was raw panic and fear. So instead we sat in silence, sipping our coffee and watching the darkness outside the window. We did everything silently and quickly that morning. Once the bank was open, I cashed out the remainder of the money, went to the phone shop and bought some more SIMs and put our suitcases in the car. We've forgotten about one thing though. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience and enthusiasm. Cami wanted to bring her along with us, but there was no way we could take a cat with us. I loved Misty, but we couldn't take her with us. It wasn't an option. After arguing back and forth, Cami finally agreed and asked one of her college mates if they could keep her for a couple of weeks. Her friend had a cat of her own and was more than happy to take Misty in for a bit. I didn't remind Cami that this wouldn't be for a couple of weeks. We could be gone for a long time. I was still tempted to leave Cami at our uncle's house while I tried to figure out who the creep was. However, the thought of leaving her alone to deal with this didn't sit right with me. Right now we were on our way to Cornwall. I had checked how long it would take to get there and I was not happy with the result. According to Google Maps, it would take almost 6 hours to get there without any breaks. Out of all the places in England, Cornwall was one of the places with a low werewolf population, so it was a good option for us. After a couple of hours of driving, I saw the sign indicating the next services would be a couple of miles away. Should we stop for a bit and get something to eat or drink? I don't feel that hungry, but I wouldn't mind getting a drink. I nodded and followed the directions to the next service area. Once we arrived there, I parked the car in the car park and looked around. I see a Greggs and Costa. Where do you want to go? Greggs. Now that I think about it, I really want a pasty. Laughing a little, I told Cami to wait in the car while I got her some food. I wasn't hungry, but I did want to get a coffee. I preferred Costa for hot drinks over Greggs, but Greggs mochas were really good and one of my favorites. After I grabbed the food, I slowly waddled over to the car, trying my best not to spill the drinks I was holding. Cami opened the door for me when I got in, and I handed the bag containing the food over to her. I know you just wanted a pasty, but the donuts and cookies look pretty good, sir. Cami didn't answer. Instead, she gave me a frightened look. What? I asked hesitantly as I locked the car door. Someone keep ringing me. It's an unknown number. Oh, that creep. How did he even get your number? Did you pick up? I questioned, feeling annoyed at the stupid wonker who just wouldn't leave us alone. No, I didn't. I was too scared. I was about to respond when her phone started to ring again. Is that the same person? I questioned as I leaned over to grab her phone. Cami nodded and I accepted the call. Listen here, you stupid twat. Stop calling me and stop calling my sister. There was silence on the other end of the phone. To my agent extraordinaire, 𝐊𝐿𝐬, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. A deep voice that clearly did not belong to the creep filled my ears. I'm sure I had heard his voice before, but I couldn't place it. What's your name? Who are you? I questioned as I sat up straighter. Have a guess. My eyes widened as I realized where I had heard his voice before. 𝐴𝐵𝐴𝐵. Chapter 12. So you have heard of me. His voice was smooth and filled with curiosity. I was speechless. I didn't know what to say. I had so many questions, such as how did he get Cami's number and why was he calling her? What's your name? My eyes found Cami's and I saw the fear and horror reflecting from them. Swallowing the bile that was threatening to come up, I cleared my throat. I'm sorry for calling you a stupid twat. I thought you were someone else. I whispered into the phone. I can't believe I called an alpha that. Not just an any alpha. 𝐴𝐵𝐴𝐵. He's going to kill me. His chuckle sent a shiver down my spine. What's your name? It was strange. Instead of it fear coursing through my body, I felt something else. Something different. I debated on whether to tell him the truth. He would find out my name anyway, since he has Cami's D10, so if I gave him the wrong decision, then it could raise some suspicion. My name is Nala. My voice was small and barely audible, but he heard me clearly. Nala. It was silent, and I used the next few seconds to pluck up the courage to ask him some questions. To my agent extraordinaire, 𝐊𝐿𝐬, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Why are you contacting my sister? How did you get her number? Where are you? He ignored my questions and asked one of his own. I'm at home. To my agent extraordinaire, 𝐊𝐿𝐬, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. My heart was racing as I thought about the reasons why he could be calling. Maybe he suspects Cami did something to his cousin. Maybe they found something. Did we miss something out? Was it the man who was texting me? Did he tell the alpha? No, if he had told the alpha, our faces would have been plastered everywhere and 𝐴𝐵𝐴𝐵 wouldn't have been talking to us this calmly. 𝐴𝐵𝐴𝐵 muttered. I am standing inside your house and I don't see you anywhere. Cami let out a squeak and clapped her hand across her mouth. He was in our house. Why was he there? Why are you in my house? Why does your house smell like bleach? Shit. 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 What do I do? What do I say? I like to keep things in my house clean. To my agent extraordinaire, 𝐊𝐿𝐬, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I blurted out while Cami made a face. He didn't respond for a long time and I looked at my phone to check whether he had hung up or not. To my agent extraordinaire, 𝐿𝐤, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Why are you calling my sister? Say my name. Oh, both Cami and I looked at each other in confusion. Say my name. He repeated, and I realized that I hadn't misheard him. I looked at Cami, who just shrugged. You are not allowed to call the alpha by his name, and usually there were pretty nasty consequences for doing so. When people talked about them, they might say their names, but in front of werewolves we had to use their titles. Was this some sort of trick? We're not allowed to do that. I reminded him, still confused as to why he would want me to do that. I'm giving you permission on this occasion. Why? Also, did he want me to say his full name or just his first name? Alessandro. An unrecognizable noise came through the line. I like the way you say my name. My mouth swung open when I processed what he said. Was he flirting with me? Before I could say anything else, he continued talking. I shall see you soon, Nola. He hung up the call, and I just sat there staring at my phone. What was that? I had no idea what was going on. Did he know what we did? I feel like he does know, but if he knew, he wouldn't have been angry. He didn't seem angry. He sounded inquisitive, as if he was a little confused about something. Oh my God, Nola. He knows. He's at our house. He knows what I did. Cami's hysterics pulled me out of my thoughts. I put the phone on the dashboard and turned around so I was completely facing her. If he knew what happened, he wouldn't have been that calm. Why is he at our house then? Cami argued. If he didn't know then, he wouldn't be at our house. That doesn't mean he knows what happened. Well, what does it mean? That was a good question. Why was he at our house if he didn't know what happened? I let out a deep sigh. I don't know, but think about it. If he knew the truth, do you think he would have spoke to us the way he did? He would have been pissed off and threatening us. You're right, but it just doesn't make any sense. I know. Don't answer any calls and eat your food. It'll make you feel better. I instructed her as I turned the car on. How long until we get to the hotel? I glanced at the sat-nav, which showed the quickest route and the time it would take. We've still got just under 4 hours left. We'll take another break in a couple of hours. Cami nodded, and I put the music on. I put it on a lot louder than I would have so that it was impossible to have a conversation. Right now, all it to do was get us to the hotel as quickly as possible, and without reassuring Cami that everything was going to be fine, because I couldn't do that. Not now, when all I kept thinking was how screwed we were. The truth was, I didn't believe what I said to Cami. Well, I didn't believe all of it. I strongly believed that he had no idea what we had done, or else people would have been searching for us. He wouldn't have been so relaxed on the phone, but he must know something, or else he wouldn't have been at our house. Did the security tapes show his cousin leaving straight after Cami did? Did he search through other days, and not just that day, and see how he kept talking to Cami? Maybe he looked at other security tapes around, tracked his movement. There were no cameras on our street, but there were cameras on all the main roads. Did he notice his cousin following Cami? What about the scent? The alpha could smell bleach in our house. Even though I cleaned up over a week ago. Did that mean he could smell that his cousin was at our house? I wish I had paid attention to werewolf studies when I was in school. That way I would have had some answers instead of the million questions I seemed to have. Though I had so many questions and thoughts about what he knew. Why he was in our house and how he got Cami's number, my mind kept wandering back to the conversation we had. Why did he want me, a random human, to call him by his name? Even werewolves don't call their alpha by their name, so why did he ask me too? There's too many unanswered questions and uncertainty about everything, but there was one thing I knew for sure. Alpha Alessandro was interested about something, and I had to find out what that was. Chapter 13. The journey to Cornwall took a lot longer than anticipated, but we managed to get there in one piece. There was a lot of traffic due to some road work, and we stopped a couple more times to get something to drink and to use the toilets. I absolutely hate using public toilets. They were always so disgusting. I had to squat uncomfortably over it and make sure there was no skin contact with the actual toilet. After that, I decided not to drink anything anymore and wait until I got to the hotel we were staying at. Even though the journey wasn't terribly long, my body was dying for a shower and a bed. We're here, I told Cami as I parked up in the hotel's car park. Cami looked out the window, her face filled with anticipation. It looked small. I glanced at the old building that looked a lot better on the pictures on the website than it did in real life. It's not too bad. Let's give it a try. If we don't like it, we can find something else. I opened the car and gestured for Cami to get out. Once we got everything, we headed over to the reception area to check in. After half an hour later, we were finally in our room that we would be spending the next few weeks in. I booked a room with a double bed instead of 2 single so I could sleep next to Cami. She still has nightmares. It's not as bad as the first couple of days, but with this new change it could trigger them again. It's kinda cute. I told Cami as I unzipped my suitcase. I'm sleeping on this side. Called it. Cami threw herself on the bed and groaned. Car journeys always tire me out. I threw her a look. All you did was text your friends. If anyone should be tired, it should be me. Can we go to sleep? It was the middle of the day, but we were both tired. Not just from the journey, but from the events of the last few days. Do you want to have a shower first? I asked as I pulled out my PJs and toiletries from the suitcase. Nope. Cami muttered with her eyes closed. I grabbed the pillow from my side and chucked it at her head, causing her to yell out. Change into your PJs before you fall asleep. Cami mumbled something as I walked past her and into the bathroom. The ensuite was modest and very white. So white that it actually hurt to look at everything. I looked at myself in the mirror and let out a sigh. It wasn't a pleasant sight. I looked awful, and that wasn't me exaggerating. I splashed some water on my face and rubbed my eyes. I let out another sigh and began to undress. A nap in the middle of the day sounded so good right now. But first, time to have a shower. After my 10-minute shower, I came back to find Cami under the covers and fast asleep. She must have been having a good dream as she was smiling slightly. It had been a while since I saw her sleeping peacefully, and as much as my body was crying out for sleep, I didn't have the heart to move her. She hadn't changed her clothes and was spread across the bed like a starfish. I changed into my PJs and let my hair down from the tight bun it was in. I didn't bother to wash my hair as I had already done that yesterday. As my hair cascaded down my back, I let out a small groan of satisfaction. I did not like having my hair up, and on the odd occasion that I did have it up, it felt so good to release it and run my fingers through it, without making much noise. I started to unpack some of the items I had brought along with me. I had no plans to unpack everything just in case we had to leave in a hurry. Unpacking everything and then having to repack again would waste too much time. Now that we were here in Cornwall, the plan was to lay low for a few weeks, stay at cheap hotels and do nothing. Maybe I could convince Cami to stay with our uncle for a bit, and I could go back to Manchester. 𝐿𝐴𝐺 didn't seem too suspicious of Cami, and if I go back and answer his questions, I could remove all his doubts about Cami if he had any. If he asked where Cami was, I could say she was visiting family and it was her break from college. That was believable, as it was the truth. If for whatever reason he didn't believe me, I could warn Cami to leave and she would be safe. I would leave all the money with her and she could find somewhere to hide in England, or she could leave the country. I don't know what would happen to me, but at least Cami would be safe. Maybe I could tell 𝐿𝐴𝐺 that I did it. That way he wouldn't even glance at Cami, as he had found his culprit. I shuddered at thought of what he may do to me if I told him I had killed his cousin. All I could do at that point would be to pray for a quick death, but after hearing those stories about 𝐿𝐴𝐺 over the years, I knew that would be unlikely. He would draw it out, torture me until I was 2 seconds away from dying before healing me and doing it again and again. There was another option, an option that scared me more than what 𝐿𝐴𝐺 would do, and that was taking my own life. It would save me from the endless days, weeks, months, or perhaps years of torture, but could I do it? I felt my eyes tear up as I thought about this option. You always hear the quote, "Suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem." Was it a temporary problem? From where I was standing, it didn't look like it. If 𝐿𝐴𝐺 found out what we did, we would be dead anyway, so why not save myself the horrific pain that was bound to happen and do it myself? I sat on the floor and leaned against the bed and closed my eyes. A lone tear slid down my cheek as I thought about what I was thinking and the direction my thoughts were headed. Never in a million years did I think I would be sitting in a hotel room, hundreds of miles away from home, thinking about taking my own life. Not just that, but planning how to end it. coming up with the best way to do it and when to do it. I can't believe this is what my life has come to. I should be planning my future. What I want to do after university. The kind of job I want. Dating. Getting married. 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐸𝐬𝐷𝐞𝐫𝐬. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. These are things I should be preparing for, not death. When I envisioned my future, I always thought I would live until I was in my 70s or 80s and be like those old people who you everywhere. The ones you see waddling around town slowly with their friends. The ones who wear those big chunky shoes, with long skirts and those awful woolly jumper or cardigans in bright colors. I wanted that. I wanted to die of old age with my family surrounding me. Cami, my kid, grandkids. I didn't want to die by the hands of 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐳. A sob escaped my mouth, and I clamped my hands over it. The last thing I wanted was for Cami to wake up and see me crying. I had to be strong in front of her even though I was crumbling inside. I felt helpless, powerless and so scared. I slowly got up from the floor. My teary eyes trained on Cami as I walked around the bed and headed towards the bathroom. Once I was in there and the door was locked. I couldn't hold it in anymore. The pain and fear poured out of me in a flood of uncomfortable tears. My hand tightened around my mouth to minimize the sounds coming out from me. After what felt like hours, I managed to gain some control over myself. I washed my face with cold water to cool it down and reduce the puffiness. I currently looked like a blowfish. Some people looked cute and normal when they cried. I, on the other hand, did not look cute. Instead, it looked like I had an allergic reaction with the way my face swelled up. Once I was satisfied with the way my face looked, I left the bathroom and went into the bedroom. Cami was still asleep, but I was no longer concerned about being quiet and not waking her up. If she slept for too long during the day, she would find it difficult to sleep during the night. I found my phone that I had discarded earlier on the bedside table and reached for it. Time to put my plan into action. Chapter 14. We need plans. Not just a plan. Multiple plans. If plan A didn't work out, we needed a plan B. If plan B didn't work out, then a plan C, and so on. Uncle Tom's house was only an hour away from here, so I was contemplating on whether I should call him or actually visit him. There was also another decision we had to make. Do we tell our uncle what happened or not? There were so many pros and cons to this. If we told him, he would understand the seriousness of it all and could help us come up with a solution. But what if we told him and he tells us to go to the police or even goes to the police himself? What if he doesn't do any of that but because he knows he is punished for it? Right now it was all on me and Cami, but if I told Uncle Tom he would be involved in this too, I would be risking his life and his family's too. If anything happened to them, it would be on us. We did this. Perhaps I could tell him what happened with giving away too much detail, that way he'll know how serious the situation is without knowing everything that had happened. Are you sure you want me to do this? I asked Cami for what felt like the millionth time. Cami swallowed harshly and nodded. You're doing everything on your own. Maybe he can help us. 𝐶𝐻𝐻𝐸𝐴𝐻𝐸𝐵 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐸𝐬𝐷𝐞𝐝𝐬. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I told her before taking in a deep breath. Do you want to be listened to what I say or? No. Cami shot up from the bed and took a step back. I'll be in the bathroom. I need to take a shower anyway. I waited until I heard the sound of the water running before I looked back at the phone I was holding. I wasn't sure what to say. I couldn't exactly be like, hey, Cami killed her rapist and we both buried his body in Saddleworth Moors, and now we think the Alpha, who was his cousin, might know and is after us. Yeah, I couldn't exactly say that. Scrolling down my contact, I paused at his name and my finger hovered over the call button. Come Nola, let's get this over with. Once I did this, there was no going back. It might sound strange, but I feel as though this call will make it seem more real. Right now only Cami and I know what happened in that creep, but let's not get into that, and telling someone else confirms it. It'll make it feel like it actually happened. I quickly pressed the call button before I changed my mind. I was going to tell him briefly what happened, and hopefully he'll be able to help us. Uncle Tom answered after a couple of rings, and his warm voice filled my ears. Hello, Nola. How have you been? 𝐿𝐢𝐬𝐩 ending good. I hope everyone else is good. Are you alone? Yes, he said hesitantly. Are you okay? I need to tell you something important. I don't know how to start. It's okay, Nola. Tell me what's wrong. He tried to reassure me, but I felt too nervous. I took in a deep breath before starting again. Something happened, and we did something bad. What do you mean? Okay. Here we go. Somebody raped Cami. What? Nola, did you just say someone raped Cami? His voice was filled with shock and horror. I whispered. What? How what? Where is Cami? Have you contacted the police? Who did this? Uncle Tom fired out these questions, anger coloring his voice. I haven't called the police. I can't. What do you mean you can't? Nola, you need to tell the police and you need to take Cami to the hospital. When did this happen? This is my fault. I should have never let the pair of you move back to Manchester. We can't call the police because he's dead. The silence after what I said was deafening and I could hear the sound of my sharp breath. What? Uncle Tom asked quietly. He's dead. Cami killed him. My voice was barely audible and for a second I wondered if he actually heard me. Tell me exactly what happened. Uncle Tom's voice was surprisingly calm. I told him everything. I told him how Cami had called me and what I came home to. I told me what the disgusting pig did to Cami and how she defended herself. I thought it would be hard to get the words out, but once I started talking everything came out. Uncle Tom didn't say anything. He didn't ask any questions. He just listened. Once I was done, I felt relieved, as if a huge weight had been removed from my chest. We need to find out who has been sending you those text messages. He finally said after I finished telling him everything. It has to be someone I know or else they wouldn't have had my number. I think they've been watching me for a while. This isn't good, Nola. We need to find out who it is and keep them quiet. The Alpha can never know what happened. You're right about what would happen to both of you if he found out. What should I do? I questioned, wondering if he could somehow track this person down. Send me over the numbers he has used to contact you with. I'll see what I can do. If we can't find out his identity through that, you may need to meet him in person. Uncle Tom paused before continuing. Don't worry, I won't let him hurt you. I'll be there too. You're coming to Cornwall. No, and you're not staying in an unknown area either. You need to go back to Manchester and remain calm. Come to my house first and I'll come with you. I shook my head. Even though you couldn't see me. You don't need to come with us. I'm not expecting you to uproot your life again for us. Nola, I am your uncle. I am not uprooting anything for you. This is what families do, he said firmly, leaving no room for arguments. I don't know what to say. Thank you. You're going to be okay, Nola. You're both going to be okay. After confirming our new plan, which consisted of Cami and I driving to his house, staying there for a couple of days and him coming back with us to Manchester, we said our goodbyes and ended the call. I then copied the numbers the creep had used to contact me and forwarded them on to my uncle. It felt strange to have someone else know what happened and someone helping us. It didn't feel as terrifying as before. Don't get me wrong. I was still scared shitless of what would happen to us if the Alpha found out, but it wasn't as bad as before, and the burden of keeping us safe wasn't just on me. Once Cami finally exited the bathroom, I relayed the conversation I had with Uncle Tom. I could see the relief on her face once she realized that it wasn't just the two of us, anyone. There would be someone else to help. Cami didn't question anything and agreed with our new plan, which made everything a lot easier. After that discussion, we both agreed that we weren't hungry enough to have a meal but hungry enough to eat something. We both decided to gorge on the snacks we got for the journey and watch some TV. We flicked through the channels until we found something to watch. We chose to watch 𝐿𝐲𝐻𝐼's comedy show, as it was light-hearted and funny, and we needed that. We were in the middle of watching the second episode when the hotel room phone began to ring. Not it. I yelled before Cami could say it. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Cami groaned as she got up from bed. Why is it so far away? I laughed as I paused the show. She threw me a dirty look before answering the phone. I watched as she frowned before looking at me. It's for you, she told me. looking confused. What? I got up from the bed and walked over to it. She handed the phone over to me and put it to my ear. Hello. Hello, Nola. My eyes widened in horror as I recognized the male voice on the other side of the phone. It was 𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐬. Chapter 15 𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐬. I whispered into the phone, causing Cami to gasp. Why are you so far away from home? He asked while I motioned for Cami to start packing. We needed to leave this hotel room ASAP. Cami stood there staring at me while I gave her a little nudge, causing her to break out of the trance she seemed to be in. She mouthed something at me which I didn't understand, and I shook my head while I pointed at the suitcases. Cami finally understood what I was trying to say and started to pack everything we had unpacked. It wasn't much, so she should be done in a few minutes. How do you know where I am? I ignored his question and owned. I have my ways, he simply said, not bothering to elaborate. What do you want? I think you know what I want. I watched as Cami ran out of the bedroom and bathroom, her face filled with fear. I don't know what you want, I told him truthfully. You disappoint me, Nola. I thought you were smarter than this. I repeated my question. What do you want? I want you. Why? I was so scared and confused. Did he know what we did? If he did, why was he behaving so calmly? Unless this was an act to make us think he knows nothing when in reality he knows everything. Where's my cousin? Oh fuck. Your cousin? I don't know what you're talking about. I lied as I looked around the room to make sure Cami had packed everything. Don't lie, me too, he snarled. Where is he? I didn't know what to do, so I hung up. I knew this would make me look more suspicious, but he already obviously knew something, or else he wouldn't have been asking us these questions. The phone rang again after I ended the call, but I ignored it. Have you got everything? We need to leave now. The Alpha knew where we were. I had no idea how he found this information out, but he did. The only hope we had now was that he was on his way to Cornwall and not actually here. This would give us a chance to run. He knows what I did, doesn't he? Cami questioned me tearfully. I don't know, Cami, but we can't waste time here talking about it. We need to go. I'm sorry. I'm so sore. Cami, please. Come on, let's go. I felt bad for yelling at her, but we had no time to waste. Making sure I had my phone and car keys, I grabbed everything and ran towards the door. I looked at the peephole to see if anyone was there before opening the door. Are we going to check out? Cami whispered as we left the room. No, I whispered back. They might be waiting for us there, or they might not let us leave. We're going to leave through the fire exit. We were on the second floor and could use the stairs to get to the first floor before taking the fire exit at the back of the hotel. Once we got to the first floor, we would have to run like our life depended on it, and it did. When I tell you to run, run. Cami nodded and we silently walked towards the stairs, both of us looking around to see if anyone else was around. The hotel was surprisingly quiet, which made the whole process even more nerve-wracking. When we checked in earlier, I made a note of all the fire exits, just in case we needed to leave, so I knew where it was. Once we got to the ground floor, I looked at Cami and nodded. Even though no one was around, I didn't want to risk it. Run. We both started running towards the fire exit. The suitcases were slowing us down, but it didn't matter, we were almost there. We ran past a couple of workers who looked startled by our appearance but didn't stop us. I pushed the fire exit, which opened easily, and looked over at Cami. Come on. We're almost there. We ran onto the car park. Our shoes and suitcases were making so much noise, but all I could hear was my thumping heart. It sounded as if it directly beside my ear. We came to a screeching halt when we saw a man standing in front of my car. Shit. 𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐬. A voice said behind me, causing both Cami and I to jump slightly. We both turned slowly and saw a large man standing a few inches away from us. You're coming with us. I glanced at Cami before turning towards the bulky man. I'll come with you, if you let my sister go. You're both coming with us. Before I could say a word, a hand grabbed me from behind forcibly and turned me around. The same happened to Cami, who let out a scream. Shut up before I make you. One of the men hissed, shaking Cami, who let out another scream. Let her go. I screamed as I struggled to remove myself from his grip. The men ignored us as we struggled and screamed for help. I thought they would follow through on their threat of silencing us, but they didn't. A dark car pulled up in front of us and the men lifted us up as if we were dolls before tossing us both into the back seats. I lunged for the door immediately, but it was slammed shut and the sound of the lock echoed around us. One of the men from earlier got into the front seat and driver began to drive. "Who are you? Where are you taking us?" I asked as Cami curled herself into the corner. The man gave me a brief glance before ignoring me. I repeated the question, but he continued to ignore. I had no idea who they were, but I knew where they were taking us. They were taking us to 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴, and he knew what we did. He had to, or else we wouldn't be in this situation. I turned to Cami and wrapped my arms around her. "It's going to be okay," I whispered into her ears. "You're going to be okay. I won't let anything happen to you." I continued to whisper these words to her, hoping it would comfort her. I had no idea if it did, as she did not acknowledge what I said. I wasn't sure what else I could do to comfort her, and I didn't want to say anything else to her just in case the werewolves heard what I said. Though the driver was driving like a maniac and definitely going double the legal speed limit, it still took a couple of hours to get to wherever the hell we were going. During those hours, the werewolves remained silent while I held Cami. I wanted to ask them where we were going or if they were taking us to 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴, but I knew they would not respond. The car slowly came to a stop and I looked out the windows and saw a big, beautiful mansion that looked like it belonged to the royal family. The men got out and opened the doors for us. I looked at Cami, who was shaking like a leaf. "Come on," I told her, not wanting to anger the men waiting for us. With hesitant steps, I left the car and waited for Cami to exit it too. I clasped one of Cami's hands and gave her a reassuring squeeze. "Stay strong for Cami. Stay strong for Cami." Those thoughts replayed over and over in my head as we silently followed the men. Once we reached the double doors at the front of the house, the men stopped and moved to the side. My heart was racing and my breath was coming out in sharp pants as I stared the doors. I glanced at Cami, whose eyes were trained on the door, all tense as if she was waiting for something to pounce on her. The door opened slowly and out stepped a tall, large man.